It was early morning in Singapore when I realized that my recent adventure was merely a prelude to the journey that awaited me. The vibrant city, alive with colors and a cacophony of sounds, had ignited a longing in me for something more raw, something that breathed history and tradition. And thus, I found myself drawn to Myanmar, a land shrouded in mystique and tales of wonder. Yangon and Mandalay beckoned to me like distant stars in a night sky. As I sat on a bench in Merlion Park, gazing at the iconic statue, a thought crossed my mind. Why not take a leap into the unknown? I heard whispers of golden stupas, bustling markets, and the vibrant culture that thrived in Myanmar. The idea took root in my heart. Ultimately, I spent hours poring over travel blogs, forums, and videos, absorbing every bit of information I could find. I made lists of places to visit, things to see, and experiences to savor. Yangon, the former capital, promised me a juxtaposition of colonial architecture and spiritual sanctity. Shwedagon Pagoda flickered through my mind's eye, its golden stupa glistening in the sun, a symbol of devotion and community. I imagined stepping onto its grounds, the sound of my feet on stone mingling with the prayers of devotees. I could almost feel the energy radiating from this sacred place. Then there was the bustling Bagyok Ong San market, which I envisioned as a treasure trove of fabrics, food, and friendship. I could already sense the vibrant chaos of vendors hawking their wares, the scent of spices wafting through the air, and the colorful textiles inviting me to explore. I imagined haggling over prices and laughing with the locals, feeling that rush of connection that always came with travel. Yet, the thought of Mandalay intrigued me even more. As I researched this ancient city, I learned about Mandalay Hill, where the sunset promised to paint the sky in hues I had yet to witness. I dreamed of the panoramic views from its peak, witnessing the interplay of light and shadow transform the landscape. It called to me, a siren song that I could not resist. The Grand Mahamuni Pagoda, with its stunning seated Buddha, sparked my curiosity like nothing else. I could picture myself standing in quiet awe, absorbing the serenity that enveloped the place. But beneath my excitement, doubts crept in. Was I ready for such an adventure? Would I be able to navigate this new world where customs and languages differed so vastly from my own? I spent evenings pacing my small hotel room, contemplating every aspect of this journey. Would I find comfort in the confusion, or would I feel lost amidst the beauty? I knew that challenging myself was an essential part of my wanderlust, but the fear of the unknown gnawed at the edges of my excitement. In preparation, I meticulously planned every detail of my trip, from flights to accommodations to an itinerary filled with must-see spots and hidden gems. I saved money, oriented myself with maps and guides, and even practiced a few basic phrases in Burmese. I could feel my heart racing with anticipation and trepidation as the departure date approached. Finally, the day arrived when I boarded a flight from Singapore to Yangon. I watched as the skyline faded away, replaced by the sprawling landscape of Myanmar below. My stomach fluttered at the thought of what awaited me, an adventure that promised to be exhilarating and transformative. Upon landing, the warm air embraced me, a stark contrast to the sterile chill of the previous days. As I stepped out of the airport, I was greeted by the brilliant hues of the city, the laughter of children in the distance, and the rich aroma of street food. The chaos was both intimidating and thrilling. I found a taxi and set off into the heart of Yangon. The streets were alive with activity, motorbikes weaving through traffic, street vendors calling out to passers-by, and a palpable energy that made my spirits soar. My first stop was the Shwedagon Pagoda. As I approached its towering spire, I couldn't help but feel a sense of reverence. Standing in front of the golden structure, I was captivated by its beauty and the dedication of those around me. Monks in saffron robes moved gracefully, and locals knelt in prayer, their devotion tangible. As I walked the grounds, I was enveloped in a sense of peace, my worries fading into the soft whispers of the wind. Afterwards, I ventured into Bagyok Ong San Market. The vibrant colors of fabrics, the allure of handmade crafts, and the friendly smiles of the vendors welcomed me. I spent hours weaving through the stalls, picking out souvenirs, trying local snacks, and laughing with the locals. Each conversation felt like a bridge, connecting me to this foreign land in the most intimate way. That night, As I reflected on a day full of discoveries, I felt a shift within myself. The doubts that had plagued me began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of belonging. I realized that this journey was not merely about the places I visited, but about the connections I made along the way. I slept soundly, dreaming of the adventures yet to unfold. The next morning, I set my sights on Mandalay. The train ride took me through stunning landscapes, lush greenery, and rolling hills that felt like they belonged in a painting. The scenery whispered tales of history, and I could hardly wait to uncover the secrets that Mandalay promised. Upon arrival, I was immediately struck by the city's atmosphere, a blend of ancient traditions and bustling life. I headed straight to Mandalay Hill, where I climbed the many steps leading to the summit. As I reached the top, the view unfolded before me, a breathtaking panorama of the city and beyond, painted in warm hues as the sun began to set. I stood in silence for a moment, absorbing my surroundings. A feeling of profound gratitude washed over me. My next days were spent visiting the Mahamuni Pagoda, where the intricate details of the Buddha's sculpture captivated my attention, and wandering the streets where artisans crafted intricate woodwork and marble carvings. I was mesmerized by the skill and patience it took to create such masterpieces. Each encounter deepened my appreciation for the culture and the resilience of its people. Time flew, and soon I found myself sitting on the banks of the Irrawaddy River at dusk, the sky ablaze with oranges and purples as the sun kissed the horizon. I thought back to my initial reluctance and the transformation I had experienced throughout this journey. Myanmar had embraced me wholly, leading me to discoveries about the world and, more importantly, about myself. As I concluded my trip, I felt a sense of urgency to hold on to these memories and share them. Stories of kindness, resilience, and beauty. My heart was full, and I left Myanmar knowing that this adventure would linger in my thoughts and dreams long after I returned home. Longing thrummed within me, a reminder that travel is not just about places. It's about growth, understanding, and connection between souls. With a heart full of stories and a camera full of pictures, I returned to Singapore, but the spark of adventure remained. I knew that this was just the beginning, that my thirst for exploration would continue to guide me to new horizons. That I arrived in Yangon, Myanmar, filled with a swirling mix of emotions. The moment I stepped off the plane, I was engulfed by the humid air and the bustling sounds of the airport. Fear crept in as I navigated through the crowd, my heart racing with uncertainty about what lay ahead. This was my first time in a country so different from my own, and the unfamiliar sights and sounds triggered a cocktail of anxiety and exhilaration. As I stepped outside, I was struck by the vibrant colors around me. The taxi stand was a chaotic tapestry of people, yellow cabs, and street vendors hawking their wares. My senses were bombarded by the aroma of street food mingling with the scent of the nearby flowers. I hesitated for a moment, grappling with my doubts. How would I communicate? Would I find my way? But the sheer energy of the city washed over me, and I felt a rush of inspiration. This was a place ripe with culture, history, and an undeniable sense of change. Climbing into the back of the taxi, I watched as the city unfolded before me. The streets were alive with activity. Vendors called out, people haggled, and the vibrant colors of traditional garments passed by in a blur. My heart soared as I caught glimpses of the Shwedagon Pagoda in the distance, its golden stupa gleaming in the sunlight, a beacon of hope in a place rich with history and spirituality. The taxi ride was a whirlwind. As we navigated through the busy streets, I struggled to comprehend the sights. The buildings were a mix of colonial architecture and modern structures, each telling a story of the city's past and its aspirations for the future. With each passing moment, I felt a mix of hope and fear. What if I couldn't bridge the gap between my life back home and this new world? What if I couldn't connect with the people here? As the taxi pulled up to my hotel, I took a deep breath. I had arrived. My hands were slightly trembling as I grabbed my bags, the fear ebbing away just enough to let excitement take its place. I stepped into the lobby, and the friendliness of the staff greeted me warmly. It felt good to know that I was welcomed here, that my journey was beginning not in isolation, but in a space filled with kindness. After checking in, I decided to venture out into the streets of Yangon. As I walked, I was engulfed by the sounds of the city. The chatter of the locals, the honking of cars, and the distant voices of street performers all melded into a beautiful cacophony. I wandered aimlessly at first, absorbing the sights and sounds, but slowly began to seek out places of interest. I found myself drawn to the vibrant markets, where the colors exploded in a riot of oranges, greens, and reds. The fresh produce was eye-catching. The fruits, the vegetables, and the spices seemed like a painting come to life. I felt a twinge of sadness as I realized that I didn't know how to properly engage with these sellers, to learn their stories, or to appreciate their crafts fully. But just as quickly, I felt a spark of inspiration. I was in a land of stories, a land steeped in tradition that was waiting patiently to be discovered. As the sun began to set, I made my way to the iconic Seoul Pagoda. Surrounded by the bustling city, the pagoda stood tall and proud, a reminder of time-honored beliefs and practices. I took a moment to sit on a nearby bench, and as I watched the golden structure shimmering with the dying light of the day, I felt a wave of peace wash over me. The initial fears I had experienced began to fade into the background, replaced by a sense of belonging in this vibrant city. With a renewed sense of adventure, I set off to explore the night market. In the bustling alleyways, the aroma of grilled meats and spices filled the air. I mustered the courage to approach a food stall, my heart racing as I ordered something I couldn't pronounce. The vendor smiled warmly, weaving a connection through the universal language of hospitality. Taking my first bite, I was met with a burst of flavor that punctuated my experience, a moment of pure joy that transported me into the heart of another culture. Every corner I turned unveiled a new surprise, a new story, and a new perspective. I discovered miniature shrines tucked away in alleyways and witnessed families dining together, sharing laughter and love. The overwhelming difference engulfed me, but it was also a profound teacher. I was discovering resilience, community, and the shared experience of living, lessons that transcended language and geography. As I returned to my hotel at the end of the day, I reflected on my initial doubts. While fear can often be paralyzing, it can also be the catalyst for growth, igniting a fire inside to push through boundaries and find strength in vulnerability. In the span of a few hours, I had traveled not just through the streets of Yangon, but deep into the realm of my own courage and curiosity. The journey had just begun, but I was left with a sense of excitement about what was to come next. My next stop was Mandalay, a city with its own allure and mystique, and I felt a sense of unity with the rhythm of the country. I was ready to embrace whatever came my way, to dive deeper into the wonders of Myanmar, fueled by the lessons of the day and the inspiring stories yet to unfold. As I stepped off the plane in Yangon, Myanmar, an invisible wave of energy crashed over me, invigorated with the newness that filled the air. The cacophony of sounds, honking motorcycles, chatter in unfamiliar tongues, the occasional clanging of a bell from a street vendor's cart, assaulted my ears, a vibrant harmony of life in a bustling city. The warmth wrapped around me like a thick blanket, the scent of incense and street food wafting through the air, mingling with the hint of humidity that clung to my skin. Navigating the crowded streets was both exhilarating and daunting. Strangers brushed past me, their faces a mosaic of kindness and curiosity, but I felt the enormity of being an outsider. The local markets pulsed with color, stalls overflowing with fresh produce, vivid fabrics, and intricate handcrafted goods. I couldn't help but feel like a child again, eyes wide and filled with wonder. Yet, the excitement often ebbed into moments of isolation. As I attempted to communicate with shopkeepers, the language barrier loomed large, turning simple transactions into complex puzzles. A smile and a nod often served as my best form of diplomacy, but it didn't always ease the nagging sense of loneliness that sometimes shadowed my adventure. The local cuisine was a battleground of flavors. Each meal was a daring leap into the unknown. I vividly remember my first bowl of mohinga, a fragrant fish soup that teetered on the edge between comforting and exotic. The spices danced on my tongue, while the fresh herbs filled my nostrils, stimulating my senses in ways I had not anticipated. I found joy in discovering dishes I could never pronounce, the culinary adventure becoming a bridge across cultural divides. With each bite, I felt a softening of my apprehensions, flavors weaving their way through my hesitations and into my heart. As days melded into nights, I made a conscious effort to embrace my unfamiliar surroundings. I watched and learned from the locals, mimicking the way they greeted one another with a slight bow, palms pressed together in the traditional gesture of respect. I learned to appreciate the power of silence and the beauty of a shared smile that transcended words. The moments I spent in quiet reflection, sitting in shaded temples, or people watching in the park, helped me process the whirlwind of sensory input that surrounded me. Each encounter, each small victory against my fears, added layers to my understanding of this new world. In Mandalay, the serenity of the sunrise over the Ubian Bridge was in stark contrast to the vibrant marketplaces where my senses were constantly bombarded. As I walked across the centuries-old teak bridge, my heart swelled with the beauty of the moment, the simple act of witnessing life unfurl before my eyes creating a profound sense of connection to the place. Locals fishing, monks gliding gracefully along the path, and children joyfully playing were all part of the tapestry woven into my experience. Yet, the challenges persisted. Sometimes, I'd struggle to navigate the public transport system, crammed into ox carts and crowded buses, feeling a wave of anxiety rise within me as I tried to decipher signs and communicate my destination. Each misstep was a lesson in patience, teaching me to remain calm in the face of confusion. The culture shock was palpable, but it became a catalyst for growth. I learned the value of humility and the strength found in vulnerability as I leaned into authenticity and openness. The days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, I forged connections that made this strange place feel like home. I slowly recognized familiar faces at the market and exchanged pleasantries with vendors who began to remember me. With each simple mingalaba, the phrase that became a comforting rhythm to my interactions, I felt the gap between us close just a little more. As I sat on the steps of a pagoda one afternoon, taking in the sunset as it painted the sky, I reflected on my journey thus far. The sounds, the smells, the tastes, each one told a story, a reminder of my ability to adapt and embrace the unknown. I had transformed from an outsider, overwhelmed and uncertain, into someone who was beginning to weave their identity into the fabric of Myanmar's vibrant culture. The challenges had not disappeared, but they had become familiar companions. Instead of feeling daunted by the uncharted territory, I was invigorated, ready to tackle whatever came my way, with the knowledge that each moment, each experience, was a stepping stone on the path of understanding and growth. The adventure was far from over, and I wholeheartedly welcomed the journey that lay ahead. That I still remember the moment I stepped off the plane in Yangon, Myanmar, feeling the warm air wrap around me like a soft blanket. The rich, earthy sense of the bustling city wafted through my senses, signaling the beginning of an incredible journey. As I made my way through the airport, I could already glimpse the unique blend of British colonial architecture and traditional Burmese structures that characterized this vibrant city. The first stop on my itinerary was the famous Shwedagon Pagoda, a colossal stupa that dominates the skyline. Standing at 326 feet tall, Shwedagon is believed to house relics of the Gautama Buddha. Its golden stupa glimmered in the sunlight, drawing my gaze as I approached. The intricate mosaics and the scent of incense filled the air as locals and tourists alike wandered the manicured grounds. I was lucky enough to arrive just before sunset, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, the golden dome of the pagoda became a magical sight, bathed in hues of orange and pink. I took a moment to sit on one of the benches nearby, absorbing the atmosphere as the sound of chanting echoed through the courtyard. After experiencing the spiritual embrace of Shwedagon, I ventured into the city to explore the vibrant streets of Chinatown. Here, I was greeted by a riot of colors, market stalls filled with fresh produce, golden yellow fried snacks, and glowing lanterns. I sampled local delicacies like mohinga, a fish soup that is the staple breakfast dish in Myanmar, and found it to be both flavorful and comforting. The hustle and bustle of the night market, combined with the tantalizing smells of street food, made for an unforgettable evening. In the days following, I explored the vibrant Badatong Pagoda, another standout in Yangon. Unlike the more famous Shwedagon, Badatong offered a slightly more intimate atmosphere, with fewer tourists crowding the site. Its unique feature is the hollow stupa that visitors can walk through, lined with glass cases, showcasing precious relics and intricate sculptures. The tranquility of the site allowed me to take in the fine details, and I marveled at the craftsmanship that went into every decoration. I also ventured to the National Museum of Myanmar, a treasure trove of artifacts that tell the story of the country's rich history. Wandering through the galleries, I was captivated by the ancient period costumes and tapestry of cultures that shaped Myanmar. The highlight was the display of the Lion Throne, a regal piece that sparked my imagination, transporting me back to the days of the last kings of Burma. Next, I caught a bus to Mandalay, a city that exuded a different kind of energy. As I arrived, I was struck by the sheer size of the Mandalay Palace, the last royal palace of the last Burmese monarchy. Walking through its fortifications, I could sense the strong historical presence, and the wooden structures held a whisper of stories from centuries past. Each building exuded grace, and I particularly loved the intricately carved doors, which seemed to tell their own stories. One of my most memorable experiences in Mandalay was visiting the Kuthada Pagoda, known as the world's largest book. Each marble slab inscribed with Buddhist scriptures was arranged neatly in a stunning array. The grandeur of the pagoda was fascinating, but the scholarly aspect of the inscriptions intrigued me even more. Walking among the columns of white, I felt a deep sense of reverence, contemplating the wisdom contained within. As dusk approached, I made my way to Mandalay Hill, where I could see the entire city spread out before me. The climb was moderate but rewarding, with each step allowing me to ponder my time in Myanmar. After reaching the summit, I was captivated by the panoramic view of the sunset reflecting on the Irrawaddy River. It was a moment of serenity, where time seemed to stand still, and I took a deep breath, grateful for the beauty surrounding me. Before my visit came to an end, I decided to explore the village of Umrapara, just outside of Mandalay. The highlight here was the iconic Ubian Bridge, the world's longest teak footbridge that spans over a mile across Tongthaman Lake. Walking across the bridge was a surreal experience as the golden light of sunset wrapped around me, creating an enchanting scene. Locals and monks traversed the bridge with ease, some calmly paddling their boats beneath, while others fished in the tranquil waters. The last day of my journey took me back to Yangon, where I sought out some lesser-known gems. I discovered the Maha Banjala Park, a peaceful oasis in the heart of the city. As I strolled through the well-kept gardens, I savored the moment of solitude amidst the urban chaos, catching glimpses of locals practicing Tai Chi and enjoying the company of friends. Before leaving Myanmar, I had to visit the Secret Garden, a tranquil hideaway created within the bustling city. Nestled behind a wall, the garden was filled with tropical plants, blooming flowers, and the gentle sound of water trickling from a fountain. The hidden escape provided me a moment to reflect on my vibrant experiences, the culture I had immersed myself in, and the incredible people I had encountered along the way. My journey through Yangon and Mandalay was filled with moments of wonder and discovery. Each location offered a unique glimpse into the rich tapestry of Myanmar's history and culture, leaving me with a sense of gratitude and a desire to return. As I departed, I took one last look at Shwedagon Pagoda, its golden brilliance forever etched in my memory. Knowing that I had only scratched the surface of Myanmar's beauty, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the bustling street as I navigated my way through the urban jungle. My heart raced with a mix of excitement and anxiety. This was uncharted territory for me. The cacophony of honking horns and the chatter of people filled the air as I clutched the map in my hands, trying to piece together the complex web of public transportation that would lead me to my destination. The subway station was a labyrinth of stairs and escalators, the metallic scent of the air mixing with the faint aroma of popcorn from a nearby vendor. I felt a sense of isolation in the crowd, my anxiety bubbling just beneath the surface. So many faces passed by, each with their own stories, yet I felt like an outsider looking in. The bright overhead lights made the already cramped space feel even smaller, and I found myself losing my bearings. Taking a deep breath, I descended into the depths of the station, ready to tackle my first subway ride. I had heard the horror stories, packed trains, unexpected delays, overwhelming heat, but I pushed those thoughts away as I boarded the train. Finding a spot to stand was a challenge, and I ended up wedged between two strangers, each engrossed in their own world. The vibrations of the train jolted me, and I felt the unease rise again. What if something went wrong? What if I got lost? My thoughts spiraled until, suddenly, a burst of laughter caught my attention. Two young women, sharing headphones, were cracking jokes and singing along to whatever song played. Their infectious joy momentarily drowned out my worries. I couldn't help but smile, and for a moment, I allowed myself to believe that maybe this city wasn't so daunting after all. As we rumbled through the tunnels, the stark contrast between darkness and fleeting lights outside the window mirrored the oscillation of my emotions. There were moments when I felt like I belonged here, an essential part of the city's rhythm, but just as quickly, anxiety washed over me, pulling me back into a state of unease. I clutched my bag tighter, reminding myself that I was on an adventure, one that stretched far beyond the confines of this subway car. When I finally emerged above ground, the vibrant street life greeted me with open arms. The graffiti on the walls, the smell of street food wafting through the air, and the vivid displays of art and culture ignited a spark within me. I felt a thrill wash over me. This was something new, something brave. Yet, the shadows of doubt loomed, reminding me that this was still a precarious dance with the unknown. As I walked down the street, I was struck by a sudden pang of loneliness. Despite being surrounded by crowds, I felt an overwhelming urge to connect, to share this experience with someone. Just then, I heard a friendly voice call out from behind. "Hey, are you lost?" It was a tall man with an inviting smile, his enthusiasm disarming. We struck up a conversation, and he offered to show me around. Before I knew it, we were chatting about everything from music to our dreams, each shared detail weaving a connection. With him as my guide, I explored pockets of the city I would have never ventured into alone. We stumbled onto a local art gallery, filled with vibrant work that told stories of struggle and triumph. The curator, an elderly woman who had lived through decades of change, spoke passionately about the artists, their backgrounds, and their inspirations. I was moved, captivated by the resilience embodied in the art and the community surrounding it. Yet, with each enchanting moment came reminders of the harsh realities around me. I could feel the tension in certain neighborhoods as the sun began to set. As we left the gallery, I sensed the change in atmosphere. The laughter faded, replaced by a palpable unease. Something felt off. My heart raced again as we stumbled upon a group of individuals arguing heatedly on the street corner. It was a snapshot of the struggles hidden beneath the city's vibrant surface. I instinctively stepped back. My new friend reassured me. "It's okay. Let's just keep moving." The fear gnawed at me. Had I put myself in danger by stepping outside of my comfort zone? Yet, as we walked further away and into a brightly lit cafe, the warmth and camaraderie of the place enveloped me again. We found a spot by the window, letting the world outside blur into a backdrop as we continued our conversation. The experiences of the day swirled in my mind as I reflected on the delicate balance of excitement and fear in my new reality. I realized that this journey was not merely one of discovery, but also of perseverance. I had faced new challenges and new friendships, each illuminating parts of myself I had yet to discover. But just when I felt I had found my footing, the next day brought a harsh reality that tested my resolve. My wallet was gone. Panic surged through me as I retraced my steps, only to feel a wave of helplessness wash over. I had met so many new faces, yet now, I felt utterly alone. Conflicting emotions churned within: anger, fear, vulnerability. I could have easily given up, sunk into despair, but deep down, a flicker of determination urged me forward. I reached out to the friends I had made, who rallied around me, helping me navigate through the chaos. Through their support, I began to understand the strength in community, the willingness to help each other through tough times. We filed reports, browsed through shops, and shared stories to lift my spirits, my initial despair morphing into gratitude for those unexpected connections. Amid the tribulations, I found an unyielding will to move forward. Each new day brought fresh encounters, unexpected challenges, and burgeoning friendships. I learned to ride the waves of anxiety as they came, finding solace in the little moments of joy, such as a stranger's smile or a shared laugh over coffee. There were shadows and struggles, moments where I felt like giving up, but they were also interspersed with bursts of hope and connection. As I lay in bed that evening, I reflected on how far I had come, the adventures that lay waiting around every corner, and the newfound resilience that was blossoming within. Perhaps this city was a tapestry of both light and shadow, and as I embraced each thread, I unknowingly wove my own story into its fabric. The journey was far from over, and as anxiety and excitement danced within my heart, I welcomed whatever the future had in store for me. While exploring the bustling streets of Yangon, Myanmar, I found myself captivated by the vibrant culture and warm hospitality of the locals. The smell of street food wafted through the air, enticing my curiosity and tempting my taste buds. A local vendor offered me a plate of mohinga, a traditional fish soup that I had heard so much about. With each spoonful, I felt as if I were tasting a piece of Myanmar itself, rich, flavorful, and deeply rooted in tradition. After a delightful day of wandering through the Shwedagon Pagoda, an engineering marvel adorned with gold leaf and precious jewels, I decided to embark on a journey to Mandalay. The night bus ride was an experience like no other. The dimly lit bus, filled with sleepy travelers and the occasional honking horn, took us through rugged terrains and scenic landscapes. I felt a sense of anticipation mixed with the thrill of venturing into the unknown. Upon arrival in Mandalay, the first thing that struck me was the landscape overwhelmed by the backdrop of the Mandalay Hill. It stood majestically as if guarding the city, and I couldn't resist the urge to hike to the summit to watch the sunrise. As the first rays of sunlight painted the sky in hues of pink and orange, I realized this moment was not just a beautiful sight, it was a metaphor for new beginnings. I soon immersed myself in the local life, visiting ancient monasteries and the iconic Ubian Bridge, where monks wandered gracefully in their crimson robes, creating an enchanting scene that was both serene and otherworldly. During my explorations, I met a group of students eager to practice their English. They invited me to join them for lunch, and as we shared a meal, I listened to their dreams and aspirations. Their hope and determination were infectious, and I found myself reflecting on my own life choices and the paths I had taken. One afternoon, I stumbled upon a small workshop where artisans were using age-old techniques to craft wood carvings. Intrigued, I requested to observe the process, and the craftsman graciously allowed me to participate. As I shaped wood with my hands, I felt a sense of connection to the artistry and culture that enveloped the air. Yet, amidst the joyful creation, a voice inside me echoed doubts about my own creativity and purpose. Days turned into weeks, and I had formed deep bonds with the locals. Each encounter and shared story shifted my perspective on life. I realized that my journey was not just about seeing new places. It was about connecting with people on a profound level. I learned that their resilience in the face of challenges was a lesson for me to embrace my own fears and uncertainties. As I prepared for my departure, I felt an unexpected weight in my heart. I knew I would miss this place that had taught me so much about gratitude and love. But little did I know, what awaited me was far more surprising. On my last night, I was invited to a farewell gathering where everyone shared their hopes and dreams for the future, and the room pulsated with energy. It was then that I met an older gentleman who spoke of a hidden treasure in the hills beyond Mandalay, one that was said to lead to untold adventures for those adventurous enough to seek it. His words ignited a fire within me. The allure of an undiscovered path, intertwined with tales of courage and discovery, resonated deeply. I could feel the pull of my next journey, one that would challenge me in ways I had yet to comprehend. As I embarked on my flight back, I looked out of the window, the lights of Yangon fading into the distance, and I could hardly contain my excitement for what lay ahead. What was that treasure? What awaited me on the other side? Whatever it was, I knew that this experience in Myanmar had changed me irrevocably, and the next adventure was destined to lead me to even greater revelations. Thanks for joining this adventure. If you enjoyed the journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing travels. Where are we heading next? Stay tuned to find out. See you in the next adventure.